just for anyone who might not have been able to join us. All right, so let's kick it off with welcome and introductions. We're just going to spend a couple of minutes talking about user group news because I want to make sure we have plenty of time for our awesome speakers. So Katie from RSM is going to talk about customer insights for the first 45 minutes. And then Jamie Stento at Microsoft is going to talk about RPA, which is going to be really cool. So here's our introductions. We've got some of the same things, right? You name your company and your role, what version of Dynamics you're on, what you want to gain from today's meeting. And then for our fun question, you can have an unlimited supply of one thing for the rest of your life. What is it? And then if you want to have even more fun, there's a fun little Teams background challenge. Pick any virtual image that represents you best, because then we can just learn fun things about each other we might not know. It looks like there's only 15 people in the meeting. So I think we should come off mute and introduce yourselves because that's fun. So I'll start and then I'll just kind of go down the screen with who I see. I'm Heidi Newhauser. I am Director of CRM Projects at Reenhanced. We're in Green Lane, Pennsylvania, not the Green Lane that's outside of Philadelphia, the Green Lane that's an hour away from Philadelphia. We're using Dynamics 365 online and we're really deep in the Power Platform right now. We actually just released 2 Power Automate connectors in the last several months, which is pretty cool. Today's meeting, I'm just happy to see everybody and learn what everybody's doing. I'm really excited for Jamie's presentation today and Katie's. Katie's will be great too. Hi, Jeff. And the first thing I think of, this might not be the best way to answer this, but literally the first thing that came to mind when I hear I can have an unlimited supply of one thing for the rest of my life is tacos. I should probably say something more profound that will help the world become a better place, but I literally thought of tacos, so I'll just go with that. All right, so I'm going to move down my list, and I've got Rafael next. Rafael, you want to unmute and give your intro?
Wow, I didn't realize this would be next. Rafael Diaz, work for IBC in the sales enablement area, responsible for the implementation of all the different things that Dave and Aiden and them come up with. So we just make sure it happens. As far as the version, we're on the latest and greatest, and we're online. For what I want to gain from today's meeting, just as always, just want to hear what's new and what's going on with the tool, and hopefully we hear something that we might be able to utilize in the future. And tacos was a pretty good answer, honestly. I would go with probably pizza. I'm kind of craving pizza right now.
Nice. I like it. All right, Donald, you are next on the list here. It's going alphabetically, and some of you come up with your last name first, some of you come up with your first name first. So you never know when I'm going to call on you.
Okay, Don Eaton. I just started the 25th of last month. I'm an MIS analyst. As far as the version of Dynamics, I'm not sure at this point. I don't recall because I'm just learning Dynamics. I'm completely new to it, so I'm not actually sure. I had to ask, and haven't received a reply yet. But what do I hope to gain from today is more of an insight into Dynamics. I've been Googling it, of course, and starting to learn a little bit more about it. And it's pretty sophisticated. It's beyond anything I've seen so far, beyond PeopleSoft and SAP and so on. It's really all-inclusive. And as far as unlimited supply, I'd like to have wisdom.
Oh, see, that's a good one. Nice job. Good answer. And welcome to Dynamics.
Thank you.
All right. So, sorry, I was in my chat for a hot second. Harry, you're next.
Harry Heiser. I am with the County of Montgomery, and the gentleman who preceded me was also Donald Eaton. He is a new member of my team in development, and so for his benefit and for the rest of the team, we're on Dynamics Online, and I guess we're up to date to whatever Microsoft normally pushes out on a normal update. So we are doing that, and we actually have a total of 9 instances of Dynamics of 27 applications that we're utilizing, and we're utilizing it throughout different departments in the county. So what I want to gain for today is obviously what's the new thing going on and how the rest of us in this meeting might be using it or looking forward to using it. The unlimited supply was like, I'm not sure whether I want to say this out loud, but pretzels seems to be okay. But then the other thing, well, I guess we would say an adult beverage.
Nice. I like it. That's pretty good. And Harry is going to very kindly present next quarterly meeting. He's going to show us how County of Montgomery is using Dynamics. So I, for one, am very much looking forward to that. So thanks again, Harry.
You're welcome.
Unless we scare him off of presenting after today. All right, Krishna, you're next.
Hi, I'm Christian Jacques. Working for Independence Blue Cross as a senior business analyst on the sales enablement team. We are Microsoft Online news version. And today I just, hope to maybe learn something new that we could use at IBX. A limited supply, I would say Kit Kat. I love Kit Kats. Every time my kids goes to trick or treat, they know once they get back home, all the Kit Kats goes to dad. So
That's awesome. I like how many of us are food motivated.
yeah.
All right, Jamie, you're up.
Hi guys, I'm Jamie Stento. I'm the business applications technical architect from Philadelphia MTC. So I work for Microsoft. I've been with Microsoft for about 3 years. And prior to that, I was in the partner channel as a consultant delivering Microsoft solutions for over 20 years. I'm an old guy. I've been dealing with Dynamics CRM since way back version 1.2. So it's been a long, long time with Dynamics. And now a lot of work with Power Platform. So from today's meeting, it's great to meet lots of new people from the community, people that I don't typically get to run into. And hopefully I can give you guys a little bit more background on the robotic process automation capabilities that we're bringing out in Power Automate. So an unlimited supply of one thing, I would say love, because there isn't enough.
Oh.
My first thought was bourbon, but I'm going to go with love.
Nice. All right, Jeff.
Hey, greetings all. I'm new to the group. I'm actually back and forth between Pennsylvania and Atlanta here. Usually half the year in Atlanta, half in the Harrisburg area. Been working with, just a little bit of background, I've been working with Dynamics since 2012. Started with 4.0 to 2011, then all the way up to our current version, Dynamics Online 9.x. Did start off my career in aerospace and did about 4 to 5 years in the federal space. Now I work as a private consultant in the commercial space, mostly in the energy industry. So hope to gain just knowledge that you guys have that I don't. Unlimited supply, sleep, because I work so much.
That's pretty good. Well, welcome to the Philadelphia user group. Happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Catherine.
Hi, my name is Catherine Costello. I am a manager with RSM. I was asked to speak here on customer insights by one of my counterparts, Bob Kanzler. I'm actually somewhat new to CRM. I actually spent the majority of my career implementing everything from Dynamics AX 2009 through 365. And then the last year have really expanded into the CRM app, so CE marketing, customer insights, and so forth. I hope to, learn something new and also, share some of the insights that I know about customer insights in today's meeting. And what's the one thing I could have an unlimited supply for the rest of my life? I think I'm going to stick with the food and probably say something like pasta with a side
Right.
of dessert.
Awesome. Nick. Oh, Nick Hance. There's two Nicks. Nick Hance.
Oh. Hello, my name is Nick Hance. I am a software developer and president of Reenhanced for 16 years now. We are on Dynamics 365 online. And today I'm just hoping to learn more. I'm looking forward to the presentation from Jamie about RPA because we're really deep into Power Automate and excited to see what's new in that space. If I could have an unlimited supply of one thing, it would be time, because I think that would just be awesome. And I set my background to a picture of my brother and I hiking out at Mount Adams in Washington, because I really like the outdoors.
Colleen, I'm sorry I skipped you between Katie and Nick. Colleen.
No problem. Colleen McKeever. I work for Independence Blue Cross as data quality lead and reporting analyst. We're on D365. As usual, just seeing what I can learn from today's meeting. That's usually one of my big drivers for attending. I usually find some great information in it. So an unlimited supply, I have to be honest, first thing that came to mind was pizza. So guess I'm going with pizza. And then I thought the same thing, like, I should really pick something better, right? But yeah, no, I would be happy with pizza, crazy enough. So
I like
Colleen,
Jamie.
can't
Jamie wins. All right, the other Nick.
Hi, everybody. Is my background on? Oh, hold on. The background didn't save. One second. Oh, much better. Okay.
Ooh.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nick Opalenik. The company I work for is LearnQuest, and I'm the manager of IT operations there. We are on the D365 online with CRM. Like everyone else, just I always pick up a trick or two or three or four from these meetings and get new ideas on how we do things by seeing how other people do things. So I always like taking what has been talked about and adapting it to make it work for us. And it's been pretty successful. We're so much better with CRM now than we were even 2 or 3 years ago. If I had an unlimited supply of one thing, it would be an unlimited supply of gas for my motorcycle, so I wouldn't have to stop to get gas all the time. That way I can just keep on going. And then my background, just woods and mountains. I'm going, as long as the weather holds, I'm going hiking for 4 days Easter weekend in West Virginia. And that picture kind of reminded me of where I'm going. So that's
great.
That's awesome.
All right. I know we're coming up on 9:30, but I think this is fun. So Aiden, you're next.
Hi. Yeah, work for Independence Blue Cross along with Dave, Raf, Colleen, and Krishnan here. We're in the latest version. Like everybody else, I hope to find some tricks, some new stuff. Everybody's so busy, we don't always get to go down that rabbit hole and find out new stuff ourselves. So it's always nice when somebody else finds it out for us and gives us the latest and greatest. If I had an unlimited supply of anything, for me, it's easy. It's money. So all that stuff that everybody's asking, I could just buy it. So independent wealth, I would never have to worry about anything. And that's it.
Good answer. Pam.
Sorry, it took me a minute to come off mute. I'm Pam McCraddock. I work for Microsoft. I'm a customer success manager there. In fact, I think 3 years ago, Jamie gave me an overview of Dynamics when I worked at AccuWeather. So it's so good to see his face. The CRM version that I'm currently on, listen, I've had a crush on Microsoft Dynamics and Microsoft products for 20 years now. So it's kind of I'm glad I can admit it here. So I actually have probably a love affair I shouldn't have. My spouse probably wouldn't like that, but oh well. And what do I hope to gain? It's always so great to be close to the customers. I like to be near the customers so I understand better. Once you're in like Microsoft, sometimes you can't see outside of that funnel. So I love being part of this group. because I was a customer as well. So Colleen, I'm with you. I would have pizza in every form. I was just telling somebody that there's days that if there was a piece of dumpster pizza, I might climb in and eat it and like fight off raccoons. That's how much I love pizza. So it was a great answer. So thanks. And my background is it's great to see other hikers here. I'm a winter hiker. I'm a summer hiker. I'm a fall hiker. I love getting outside. Put the ego aside, get out and really know who you are. So it was great to see a couple other fellow hikers there.
Awesome. So it sounds like next time we're all together in the MCT, we are going to have pizza for our catered food.
Yes, that
no
sounds
question
great.
about it. Maybe some tacos? I don't know.
I'll make that
all right.
happen, Heidi.
Yes. All right, Peter, you're up next.
All right. So I'm Peter Siskanik. I work for a company, Jacob Stern & Sons, and I'm part of the business applications team. Specifically, my role's business application specialist. So I do a lot in the Power Platform, a lot of Power BI. We actually just rolled out our first Power App with some Power Automate in the background. And then for CRM, we're currently on-prem. I believe it's 2016, but considering upgrading pretty soon, so that should be cool. As for what I'd like to take from this meeting, I mean, I think like everyone's been saying, just learn what's new, especially interested in the robotic process automation, and unlimited supply. Definitely a lot of good answers so far, but I'm going to go with bacon.
All right, Rena.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Rena Driggs. I'm the Director of Business Applications at Jacob Stern & Sons, and I work with Pete. I'm responsible for all our ERP, CRM, reporting platforms. Like Pete said, our CRM is an on-premise 2016. We are considering upgrading it to a cloud version. Today's meeting, RPA, definitely of interest to us. Unlimited supply of one thing. I really hate charging all my electronics. It's the geek in me. I wish all my electronic devices were always powered. A virtual image that represents me best. I thought about it. I thought about changing mine, and I think what I have in my background represents me best. I'm pretty much black and white, and I like things to be simple.
Like it.
Yep.
All right, Ruth. Ruth, you're on mute.
Thank you very much. My name is Ruth Gunn. I am with CRC. I am the order to cash IT business lead in a global sense. Currently, we do not use Microsoft Dynamics CRM. I joined this user group because it is one of our goals for next year. I thought I would listen in and see how everyone is using it, get your feedback and inspiration, so to speak.
Awesome.
Yeah. So if I had an unlimited supply of one thing, probably have to do with my background, travel.
Awesome.
I like to travel. And COVID is not helping that situation. So,
welcome, Ruth.
Thank you. That's it for me.
Awesome.
Irina.
Ryan?
Yeah, good morning. Ryan Pennant from QGate Software. QGate builds add-on applications for Dynamics, so we're obviously on the latest version, and I'm part of the business development. And I hope the gain from this meeting is just always keeping my finger on the pulse of the latest stuff and just personal growth, if you will. And the only good thing about the COVID, I guess, if there's not really much, but you are able to do more virtual meetings across the country. So I normally wouldn't be able, since I'm on the West Coast, be able to go to the East Coast meetings. So this is kind of cool. If I had an unlimited supply, I go between chocolate and patience, but I do love the travel part. So I'm going to steal that one because, I love to travel, love to be outdoors, love to see stuff. If that's what I could do the rest of my life, that's definitely what I would do. So, and my background is Sedona when I was hiking with my sons last year on spring break, the last time we could go anywhere. So I'm hoping we can all go do that again very shortly. So.
Awesome. Beautiful background. Emilio.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I work at Goddard Systems. I'm an application analyst. We're currently using the older CRM 2015, and we're upgrading this actually in a month to the Dynamics 365. So I'm doing a lot of training, a lot of time spent. I have a lot of experience with 2015. There's a couple of differences with 365 that I'm learning about. So I'm hoping to just get some more information, network, of course, and see what else, what are the options I have out there with Dynamics. If I had an unlimited supply of one thing, I would say time. I think I could always use more time. There's never enough time in a day. Yeah, it's nice to meet everyone.
Yeah, great to have you here. Dave.
Good morning, everybody. Dave Stefanski with Independence Blue Cross. I'm the Director of Sales Enablement Services. We are on D365 Online. What do I hope to gain from today's meeting? I hope to see everybody pour their love into Jamie today for his presentation and make his dreams come true. If I could have an unlimited supply, I'll give two answers. One would be my altruistic answer would be, let's get the COVID vaccine out there so you guys can all travel and eat pizza in pizza shops. My actual selfish one would be an unlimited supply of beach days. That would be mine.
Kathy.
Hi, I'm Kathy Tippers, also with Montgomery County, along with Harry and Don. I work in the development group. I'm new to developing in CRM, but we've had it for almost 5 years. I was doing some other things with it, testing and documenting and some other things, but not actually developing. My unlimited supply would be cheese because it goes with everything. And I like the time one. So if I had to pick a food one, it's cheese. And if it's just an abstract one, it would be time also. This is my first meeting. So pretty open to what I'm going to get out of it. Hope to be able to join more, in the future. Yeah, that's about it.
Great. Yoav, I'm sorry if I butchered the pronunciation of your name.
Oh, you got me right. But I'm a retired industrial engineer, and I just came to listen. I was working actually in customer support most of my life, so I really want to learn a little bit more about what's happening now in the CRM arena, and I just came to listen.
Great.
And if I have ultimate request, I'm just retired, so I have enough time in my life, and I'm very happy with what I have now.
Oh, that's great. And Bill, I see you. Oh, he left. Nice to have you here for a hot second, Bill. All right, I think we're all done our intros. Katie, I'm really sorry we went 9 minutes into the time I told you could start. So I'm going to skip all of the chapter news. We can come back to that at the end for anyone who's interested in learning more. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And then Katie, you are welcome to take over control and start your awesome session. All right, I see your screen, but I also see that you're on mute.
I am on mute. Thank you. I must have unmuted and then really quickly remuted myself. Okay, so awesome. So I'm here to talk about specifically customer insights today. This is a graphic that I've pulled offline that kind of illustrates that full life cycle of what goes into creating customer insights. So from the data perspective, you can pull in data from essentially anywhere. We can pull in data from existing systems using API. We can pull in data from websites. We can pull in data from mobile, from really any system. There's APIs, there's connectors. In our case, and in the demo environment that I have, we actually created a quote unquote fake company and put all this data into Excel and then threw it up into Blob storage. So the way you get data is very flexible with customer insights. Then what you do is you unify that data. So you ingest it, you map and match your customer profiles together, so you get that singular customer profile across multiple different data sources. And then you can start enriching it with different analytics. You can leverage machine learning and AI. You can start to put together segments and different measures. And then there's the action side of it, so, or the export destination. So what do you do once you have this full 360-degree view of the customer? You can put it into Power BI. You can leverage part of the Power Platform with Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Flow to get it into other systems. And then we're going to talk about some other connectors, such as on the platform, so Dynamics 365 marketing. And I'll actually show you an example of how it looks in customer service. When we talk about data ingestion, I think that this is probably the biggest part. And when you as a customer or you as an implementation partner are spinning up customer insights, I would say the most time that you're going to spend is getting the right data that you need in the right format. That's generally where the bulk of time that you spend customer insights is taken. Once that data is ingested, once you map it out, the rest is just what do you want to see and what kind of KPI and data do you want to get out of customer insights. This is just a screenshot of, and this might have been updated because I took this a couple months ago and they have been making updates to it, but this is just some data sources that you can use to pull in outside data sets into customer insights. Like I said, in our demo environment that we've spun up, we're using Azure Blob storage, but it's very flexible here. Another great thing about customer insights is that it doesn't just look at transactional data from your e-commerce system, from your CE system. If you have a point of sale or another ERP solution, it's looking at observational and behavioral data. So if your company, if your client is collecting additional data, such as meeting time, how often are you meeting? What type of meeting is it? What is that customer doing on your website? Is there abandoned carts? How long are they spending on each web page? Are they attending meetings for you? All of those types of data points can be, if they're captured, they can be put into customer insights and then, spit out as that full customer profile, that 1 or 360-degree view of that customer profile. So this is just an example, and this is actually, probably should update the slide because we just added some more data sets, but this is an example of a B2C customer that you traditionally see where they have up to 5 different systems. And you can kind of, interchange a point of sale with a customer service or CRM system. So you can interchange some of these, but we generally see where you can have multiple different systems where you're getting transactional type of data. You might have a separate loyalty system in this case. You might have a separate inventory system. You have a different financial system. So you're pulling in all this data, but your customer number may not match up in each of one of these systems. And that's kind of the demo, as I say, that we take people through when we explain what customer insights can do for you. So I'm going to jump right into customer insights, and I'm going to start talking about the data sources and the unification process. Are there any questions before I get started in the system? All right. So this is the homepage of Customer Insights, and I'm going to jump into data sources. These are all the data sources that we loaded for this instance. So we have different activities on the website. We're pulling in some analytics. We're pulling in a loyalty program, a subscription program. We have contacts from multiple different ERP sources that we're pulling into Customer Insights. That next step is that unification process. So what you want to do when you unify your data is you want to find that primary key or something that is consistent across your customer basis. In our case, it was contact ID was our primary key, and then we're looking at a couple other fields. This is data from customer service. This is data from an ERP system, and then this is data from our loyalty system that we want to mash together to get that singular customer view. A lot of times that primary key can be the contact ID. It can also be a last name. It can be a phone number. It can be an email, something that's traditionally consistent across all of your customer base. Once you identify the entities that you want to combine and you identify the primary key and some of those mapping fields, we take it over and we set up the matching status of it. So we start to lay out our record detail. So if I hit edit here, for example, I want to look at my primary. So this is kind of my primary record is my ERP system in this case. And then my second and third primary records, I want to combine our loyalty and then the data from customer service. And then what we do is we start to put in, we have first name, we have email in this case, and we start to say, all right, let's look at the precision level of matching these up if they are different. So in this case with full name, we're looking at our organization and our entity. We've identified those field names. In this case, they both have the same field name type, so full name, excuse me. We want to normalize it, and then we can set a precision level. So, for example, if you have a full name in this case and a customer might spell their name Costello, C-O-S-T-E-L-L-O, and then maybe they also might have spelled it C-O-S-T-E-L-O with one L, stuff like that where there could be a minor variance. This is where you kind of want to take a good hard look at your data and say, what is that precision level that we want to look at? And how do we want, and it's kind of a balancing act, right? You may not want it to be 100%, but you also don't want it to be 50% because then you're going to be pulling in customers that truly aren't the same customer. So we had a 94% match, and then we're also looking at of these, we'll pull an email address, and we have this almost to 100%, primarily for demo purposes, so we didn't have a 100% match. But that's what it looks like. And then what we can see is the number of source records that we pulled in versus the number of unique records. So the number that actually matches up here, and we can start to see that across, what was matched and what happened. And then the merge tab really just kind of shows you what customer fields you're starting to pull in through, what your primary keys are, and then what we actually decided to remove from the customer record. We pulled out an email and a middle name from one table because we didn't like the data in there. Once you unify your data, these entities are automatically created. And this is just really an overview to review that data that you have combined it. So the system does a lot of work behind the scenes that matches it up. And that's why when I started off the presentation and I said that a lot of the work for customer insights goes in really at the beginning of this, because you're identifying your data sources and then you're making sure that the data sources and the data that you have is something that's consistent and usable, so that you do get, matches that are consistent and you're not just matching, 5% of your customer records. Once all the unification is done, I'm going to come over and I'm going to show you the customer profile to show you what it looks like. Primarily, you're not going to really be jumping into the customer profile in Customer Insights. This is really just a visual representation of how your data is coming together on this particular customer. So I have a unique identifier as a customer ID. If I go all the way down here to contact ID, this is my contact ID from CE, or customer service, which I'm actually going to show you at the end of the presentation. And then I have my timeline of activity. So I'll talk about setting up activities in a minute, But this is all of Elizabeth's activities for her entire interaction across that company, from abandoning cart to updating her shipping address on the website. She returned something in the call center. She purchased some computers in store. She, again, abandoned a cart. She spent 10 minutes on the camera page. She has additional purchases through the point of sale system. This one's supposed to be subscription. So we can see that entire picture of that customer and the entire interaction that she's had with your brand. And then over here on the side, we have what we call measures. These are user-defined measures that you want to look at a customer level. Measures then play into segments, which I'll talk about in a minute. So here we're looking at 4 main measures. Again, this is more of a B2C type of customer in this example. So we're looking at her lifetime spend in the retail stores. We're looking at her lifetime spend when she's called the call center versus e-commerce. And then we're looking at her average, e-commerce spend. This plays very well into your segments when you want to start marketing to customers, and I'll come back to that. Another example, which is a more traditional B2B customer that I have, if I can spell correctly. These measures aren't going to pull in because this customer is not spending money in a call center or point of sale, but I can see that the account contact, we had a touch base. We updated their phone number, their email address, their customer account was created. We had a follow-up call. We had our original intro call. Because this is demo data, obviously some of this is a little backwards. But we can see this from more of a CRM system type of perspective as well. And then instead of having more traditional B2C measures and segments here, what you would see is maybe like the total number of meetings with a particular contact with your company, or the average length of meetings, or the number of on-site meetings that resulted in a sale. So what you can do with measures is really unlimited in the type of data that you want to pull off a contact based off of, the data that you're collecting. So I'm going to quickly hit on activities, which is what you see here. Once you pull in your data, you set up those activities that you want to have displayed on that customer's timeline. So B2B meetings versus returns versus sales versus web interactions. So you can set up any of these activities that pull from that data. Now I'm going to take you past the data part back into measures and segments, which is what we saw on our customer records. So again, measures can be broken out into 2 kind of classifications. You have a business measure, which is at your company business level. So what is my average return amount across the company? What is my average subscription amount? What is my average meetings per month across the entire corporation or company? And then you have customer attributes. These are customer level attributes, which is what you saw on my customer record, such as e-commerce lifetime spend, point of sale spend, specific items purchased per category. Maybe you want to break down customers and see what's their average purchase based off of a category of products or the number of meetings. So these measures are set up here where you can start to select the dimension that you would like. I don't know something. You can select that dimension that you want here. And then you can start to build out your function. So maybe we want the spend of, and if you know the attribute, you can type it in, or you can just select it here of our point of sale. You can continue to add calculations. You can also write SQL for this as well if you don't want to use kind of this segment or measure builder here. I think what's nice about Customer Insights is that while there is some degree of technicality needed, in other parts like creating measures, it's a little bit more user-friendly to someone who may not know how to write SQL but needs to create a simple measure. I'm going to do that and cancel. They run, you can set the refreshes, and then they'll let you know if there was a failure. But also once you save a measure, it's going to automatically run and go through all your contacts as well. Now, segments can use measures, or you can just create segments. And what it makes segments important is this can be used directly into your marketing system. This feeds directly into Dynamics 365 for marketing, or you can integrate this with other marketing systems. So this is where you create those customer segments based off of how you want your marketing campaigns and what you want to send emails to customers based off of. So you can create a marketing or a segment from profiles or measures. An example would be here. I can take, if I selected measures, my average e-commerce spend, and then I can start saying, you know, greater than 500. We can review it and we can see that that's 57% of customers. So now I can target my customers that purchase on our website that spend over $500, maybe for a particular campaign. If we take it from profiles, we can take like a birthday, for example. I think I have birth month. Let's do that. And then I can say, you know, I want all April birthdays. Now what I can do is, if you've ever gotten those marketing emails that say, hey, it's your birthday, you get an extra 5% off, you get $10 to our restaurant, you know, we can target by any type of field like this. Again, I'm showing a little bit more B2C, but again, you can, any field that you're pulling in on that customer, we can pull in. So if you have different types of, you know, business industries, their, you know, market cap, we can also start to segment by those as well. The last type is blank segment. So this is just creating a segment kind of from scratch. And there's two different types of segments. And if you're familiar with marketing, you'll also kind of see this as well, where you have static and dynamic. So a static segment doesn't change. It's a fixed list. For example, if you're doing a webinar, if you're doing a meeting to a fixed group of people, you're going to use a static segment. It's never going to change unless you go in and update it. Whereas a dynamic segment with customer insights updates about every 12 hours. So let's say that I want to target all of my customers that have spent, you know, over $1,000 in the last month on computers for our company. That segment is going, that list of customers within that segment is going to update based off of the date range that I have, the amount spent, and then if I purchase something today versus, you know, Joe Smith purchases something in 2 months, he's now going to be included in that segment. You also have suggested, this is actually new, but the system can suggest segments for you. And then the insights is pretty cool, because what this allows you to do is this actually allows you to take multiple segments and find the differentiators between them or where they overlap. So maybe I want a customer in not-for-profit, for example. I want to see who has donated but also attended meetings. If I have those two different segments, I can use the insights with overlap to see where those members share, you know, commonalities or differentiators. If you do subscriptions, if you are a traditional B2C customer or company, you can do predictions and customer models. This is going to take a look at predominantly customer churn and so forth. So this is still in preview, but we've actually used this at a client to look at customer churn and kind of their subscriptions as well with AI intelligence. So any questions before I talk about the export destinations and what you can do with this data once you have all your segments and your measures and your data combined and into a customer? All right, so export destinations. These are very simple and straightforward to set up. For example, I mentioned Dynamics 365 marketing. So if you're using marketing, you can hook it into your marketing database And all of those segments that you created are now pushed down to Dynamics 365 for marketing, and you can start using those in your customer journey. I've pulled this into Power BI. Very easy. It pulls all your data. You can start overlaying that, making your Power BI dashboards. And then if you have other systems that you would want to overlay, maybe some financial data over, you can do that. Microsoft Teams, Power Automate, Power Apps, and then we also hook in, it also hooks into like Facebook Ad Manager, MailChimp, Google Ads, and so forth. What I'm going to show you is what it looks like in sales and customer. This says customer service and Sales Hub, but it uses any of the sales, customer service workspace, and hub. So I'm in customer service workspace. You hook it up to the database. You create a different view here, so your contact with customer insights. And then what it's going to do is it's going to pull in that customer insight timeline here. You can also add in customer insight KPIs and customer insight demographics. So if you remember back from Elizabeth, who I showed as that first customer, we can see her entire customer service or customer insights timeline now embedded in CE. This also works with sales as well. So if you are pulling up a customer, you can see, what has she done? When was that last meeting? How long was it for? If you're a not-for-profit, what was that donation amount, and so forth. So I think this is pretty awesome. The customer KPI Insight, so you pull this in, and then what you do is you can just hit edit here, and you can search for different measures. So all the measures that you created, you can take a look at. I already have average number e-com spend here. You can then, push it up, push it down, and so forth, and then delete this. But that's how you pull in your measures. It's very straightforward. And then your customer insight demographics. If you wanted to use this instead of maybe this customer card or maybe show different information, again, you just come in here, you edit it, and then you find that field that you want. That's pulling from your primary data source and primary key for that field and what you want to see on that demographic field. So here I have, full name, city, reward tier, and birthday. If she was part of segments, then it would also show up under segments as well. So that's a high-level overview of customer insights. The last thing I wanted to show was that, and this is a newer feature as well, but I think it's pretty cool, is not just that customer insights that we went through here, but if you click on the data, there is analytics, and this is all sample data that you get when you spin up a customer insight environment, but you can actually hook this up with your own data from your own website, and you can start pulling in all that data from real-time uses, page views, visitors, and so forth. You can see different traffic resources as well. So you have all this analytics embedded in customer insights as well. And then I'm sorry, I forgot to mention one other thing I wanted to show. Enrichment. So I think this is pretty cool as well. If you are a traditional B2C customer, you can use Microsoft Graph, which looks at the entire Microsoft universe, kind of on, totally blanking, Office, Outlook. It takes into MSN, all that information. It takes out any, customer privacy data, and it basically says, what's your customer propensity, like others that we have information on, to a particular brand or a particular interest. If you're a not-for-profit, for example, you can use the demographics by Experian to look at household income and what's their propensity and how much to donate. If you're a B2B company, you can pull in company data by Leadscape, which is a third party, and it will update your company size. It will give you location, industry, and more information on leads and targets that you're looking at if you don't have that information or if you need that information updated. So I think that's all the points I wanted to cover. I can open it up for questions. I know we have a few more minutes left.
Hi, Jeff Boris. I have a few questions for you here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So again, I have a few different questions in a couple different realms. So when we, I know we're just kind of looking at CRM data here. So I'm just going to one at high level, what kind of goes on the back end here. So essentially, let's just say we connect a lot of different disparate data sources. And essentially, is this kind of just pulling, will it essentially just flatten all that data out and just store it as an object in the blob storage? The way I'm going is this, so is this kind of taking like a big data approach and the ability to run like kind of like big data algorithms over that, as far as like custom measures, if you will?
Yeah, so I mean, we're taking data. These were all loaded through Azure Blob Storage, but it doesn't have to be. So you're taking multiple data sources. And if I put in a name, it would show you all the data sources that you want to connect to. But then you're in that unify point, that's where you're combining all those different data sources together to create that one customer profile.
Okay, so with that being said, when you purchase licenses for this, must you also purchase the blob storage, or does the blob storage come with this licensing?
From the information I have on the licensing, and I can pull it up because I don't know if it's PowerPoint. The Azure Blob Storage would be different. That should be with like your Azure account, depending on the licenses that you have as well.
So essentially, you would have to pay for the license for Customer Insights as well as the cost for the blob storage.
If you're using blob storage, yes. But again, you can even pull this through Excel files.
Okay.
Or APIs or different data sources that way.
Another thing, two more questions. One, does this adhere to the CRM security rules? So essentially, if we assign licenses and we have your account managers, whatnot, rather than the CEO use it as security roles. So like, will it only present data and on records that adheres to the security rules within CRM permissions?
So Customer Insights, you have to have like a license and a security role to access Customer Insights, like this and what I showed you in here, which is predominantly most likely going to be someone in IT. For customer service or sales, they have to have a specific security role to view these KPIs that are on the customer card. But I believe that if you limit a customer or a user to specific customers, that they wouldn't be able to even view that customer and then see this data. But what you're exposing here is a specific customer insight role within customer service.
Okay. Last question here. So, I mean, this looks, just even the fact that you mentioned measures, and I mean, this looks awfully like a lot of stuff. Other than CRM, I'm a data architect and do Power BI development as well. I mean, this is something that it looks like anything that I could do in Power BI. So is this geared more towards like non-business intelligence developers that they can easily set up measures rather than, a Power BI developer that could, simulate a good majority of this? As you know, we can do very many data sources as well as run, our algorithms, create our own algorithms and run AI on the data within Power BI. So I'm just curious what the, specific difference of Customer Insights is rather than, doing this in Power BI.
Yeah, that's a great question. So you might be able to do this in Power BI. What this does is this unifies a customer and their interaction with your brand into one singular profile. It gives you those segments and measures, which, yes, segments and measures you potentially could create in Power BI as well. They definitely make them easier, but in some cases you would need someone a little bit more advanced if you did want to do like a SQL advanced measure. But the power of customer insights is that it can take all that data consistently and dynamically, and then you can export that into those destinations. I don't believe with Power BI, for example, that you could get this customer insight timeline embedded in customer service. If you use Power BI to create measures, that would be much more difficult to get that into a marketing system segment. So this is really focused on that singular customer profile. It combines all those disparate systems into a singular customer profile, and then it gives you output destinations to use in a myriad of different systems.
Okay. Does it again, just I guess one more. I mean, can you do like really advanced stuff like correlation analysis? Basically, grab insights not readily available by the naked eye, similar to like stuff that big data does.
I'm not sure. I think we would need to make specific examples.
Okay. I don't want to get too low level here, so I would just have these questions here. Like, I mean, I guess like essentially, this is just a very very dumb example, I guess. Like, so maybe like someone 6'8" whose favorite color is red that was born in this year, sort of deal, would be would be a hot lead rather than a cold lead, sort of deal.
So that would happen more in marketing. Like, you would get that data that they're 6'8", that their favorite color is red, in here in this customer profile, and then you can create segments that say anyone that's 6'8" that likes the color red should be considered in this particular segment, whether that's a hot lead or tall people that love red, that you market to. But if you want to get into kind of like hot leads and then changing those leads, is it warm, is it cold, is it hot, that's more of a specific marketing thing. So this is just going to give you that data and then allow you to segment that customer data and put it into different systems so that you can make actions on it.
Okie dokie. That's all I had. Thank you. Great presentation, by the way.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Katie, that was an awesome demo. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, great job. Thank you.
All right, Jamie, the floor is yours.
Okay. That was awesome, Katie. Yeah, and some of the questions are typical questions that we hear about customer insights on a regular basis. And those things are really around, what are we going to do with all this data? So one of the big, in my opinion, one of the big things that customer insights brings to the table is we can eliminate some of those old failing data cleansing projects that people always try to bring on, because the intelligence in the background really helps us to eliminate that stuff. We can use the intelligence in customer insights to really drive what the how that data is correlated across multiple systems. So I mentioned this earlier in my introduction. I'm the business applications technical architect from the Philadelphia MTC. So I've been with Microsoft for a little over 3 years. I've been delivering Dynamics implementations for about 100 years. So a lot of background in this. Some of the things that we do out of the MTC is in the way that we engage with customers, and you can work with your Microsoft team to try to get some time with the architects within the MTC. But we do a lot of work around strategically trying to understand what customers are trying to achieve in terms of business outcomes and problem solving and so on and so forth. And then continue to dive into that strategy around from a technical perspective, how do we bring the right technologies to the table? How do we get people hands-on with the technologies and start to learn how those pieces come together and how they work together? So this is just sort of a little bit of an overview of what we do out of the MTC. We do a lot of things around for a particular business problem that customers are trying to solve for, or a specific industry. How are Microsoft technologies being utilized to create solutions in an industry, for example? And that's a lot of what we do out of the MTCs. And we have locations, 15 locations around the US and about 53 locations worldwide. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is give you guys a little bit of a sense of our robotic process automation capability that's baked into the Power Automate platform, which of course is part of Power Platform in general. We're seeing a lot of traction with some of our largest customers around RPA, and that concept is really starting to grow. A year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, it's sort of where this concept of low code, no code was really starting to take off across lots of organizations, not just really large organizations. And I feel like that's kind of where the RPA concept lies today. And really it's because the tool set, and Microsoft isn't the only vendor with a low code, no code tool set. The tool sets that are available in that space really start to create a more accessible experience to more people in the organization when they're looking to build out these processes and applications and automations. And so some of the things that we're doing around Power Automate and the ability to connect these low code, no code tools with the products and capabilities that you already have is around really just driving that low code concept. That's really one of our first key areas, so that we can accelerate the use of automation across all organizations. And with our RPA capability, we really are taking a cloud first approach. So even though we're talking about driving manually recorded steps for some legacy system that doesn't have modern APIs built for us, those recorded steps, those automated processes are still cloud first. Those recordings are stored within Power Automate in terms of a platform and where does this data live. Those recordings of how we run through manual steps against the legacy system, that's stored with your flows within Power Platform the same way that your digital automations are created today. And that makes everything much more scalable. We don't have to worry about the servers behind the scenes or VMs behind the scenes, and do we have compute capability and so on and so forth. So being able to bring that to the table and having just sort of a single automation platform that's intelligent across the way that we can integrate business process, modern web services in our digital automations, the way that we can access legacy systems through robotic process automation, just starts to bring everything together in an automated platform and create this sort of seamless view from a security perspective, because everything is still being managed through Azure AD and those cloud-based security mechanisms that you guys are already using today. With our RPA capabilities, we recently purchased essentially the Win Automation product from a company called Softomotive. And it's sort of been rebranded a little bit and directly integrated into our Power Automate platform to sort of complete this view of a complete automation perspective. So robotic process automation certainly is part of that, but when we can bring in artificial intelligence and integrate that into our automation processes through things like AI Builder, right? Our digital process automation, which is really what Flow has always been, the ability to connect to APIs all around the organization. Business process management is really our business process flows that you can build out in Common Data Service, again, all configurable. And then this process mining capability that we've recently rolled out as part of the Power Automate platform allows you to capture processes across multiple users in the organization and get a visual of what those processes look like today, right? What are people doing with email and moving files around and doing those types of repetitive tasks starts to give us an idea of the types of things that we can automate within the organization. So the robotic process automation is the piece that I want to key on today, but I think it's really important to understand that RPA capability is a part of an overall automation strategy within Power Platform. And really, the goal here with all of Power Platform is to bring these capabilities to more people in the organization, using a tool set that allows folks who are not traditional developers to create these automated processes is extremely powerful capability from the platform, because we can say that not everything, not all processes and applications have to originate with IT. Under the covers, it's still the same types of Azure and cloud-based services that you would expect. For example, when I create a Power Automate flow, I'm really creating an Azure Logic app behind the scenes, but it's a much different experience that's accessible to more people in the organization. And that's really the key to bringing all of these services to bear in the entire Power Platform toolset. So when we start to be able to automate these repetitive tasks that our users manage on a regular basis, we start to be able to do things like, hey, let's get the repetitive nature out of the job and let our people focus on manage by exception. Let our people focus on those things that are more important, that require human intervention and a human thought process. Those repetitive pieces that we do on a daily basis, let's automate that stuff and get it out of our hands. And that's really what Power Automate in general and RPA allows us to do. With the robotic process automation, there's a relatively new tool, and we'll take a look at it in a minute, called Power Automate Desktop. And this is a tool that you're able to use to configure those manual steps that you would run against legacy systems, and start to be able to combine these groups of manual key entry. I have to drag and drop and do all these things manually. I can start to capture and record those actions within the Power Automate Desktop tool. And then I can take those RPA flows, those RPA automations, and call them directly from one of my regular Power Automate flows. So one of the examples we'll take a look at is something like an email hits my inbox with an invoice attached to it, and I want to pick off data from that invoice and get that entered into some legacy system, right? It's the combination of all these automation capabilities that makes the platform very powerful. Some of the areas that we're starting to see a lot of growth and a lot of adoption across different industries is around things like in financial services, right? When we can go through some of the loan approval process of capturing data, enriching data, and then being able to get that information pulled together, not only within the systems that we already have that we use on a regular basis that are API driven, but also those legacy systems where it might be an SAP type of system, any type of ERP, where a lot of times we don't have APIs built in front of those. So there's a lot of different capability that we're seeing across multiple industries that are using the RPA capabilities in conjunction with the regular digital process automation. And all of that's tied together within Power Platform. So your Power Platform tools are really what sits underneath the capabilities that you see in Dynamics 365, the capabilities that you're already using in Office 365, but being able to tie those services together that you utilize out of Azure without having to be a developer, an IT specialist, without having to have access to the Azure portal to go spin up these services in the background. So just wanted to give a little bit of background and sort of set the stage on what we're talking about around RPA. And we'll take a look at the tools here. So when I come into Power App Studio, and this is something that's probably pretty familiar to you guys, when I jump into flows, one of the things that is relatively new is we started to rename things, and this is probably frustrating for some people, especially Dynamics folks, because we changed entities to tables and we started renaming things, but it's all really the same capability in the background. So our regular flows that you've been used to seeing, those API flows, those are called cloud flows now. Same capability, same tool set, but now we also have a new category here called desktop flows. And desktop flows reference what we're talking about when we talk about RPA. So I'm gonna create a new desktop flow, and one of the things that it's gonna do is I have all my laptop sort of a silly little .NET app for managing invoices. And this is an application that I'm going to use to automate some of these steps so that you guys kind of see what the recording process looks like and how all these pieces come together. So I'll create a new desktop flow here. I'm just going to call this test invoice and launch the app. Now, in this case, what it's doing is it's launching my Power Automate desktop app, which also lives on my laptop here. And this is the application that I use to actually record the steps, the manual steps that users have to take, because I have this invoice application that that doesn't have APIs built for it. So as soon as this comes up, come on. So once this comes up, we're going to see an interface where I can record not only desktop application steps, but I can also record web application steps. So in other words, within my Power Automate desktop, my RPA flows, I can launch web pages and have these flows automate the manual steps for web pages as well. Now, I don't know why this is taking so long.
Don't you just love live demos?
It's beautiful. The hazards of live demos. That is awesome, man. Thank you. All right, let me try this one more time. So I'm going to do new test invoice, launch my Power Automate desktop. And if this doesn't work, I'll just create it directly from the app. Come on. There we go. That's a little bit better. So in this, one of the things that you'll notice in Power Automate Desktop is on the left-hand side, you see this area called Actions. And I'm telling you, I've been working with this I've been playing around with this for a couple of months off and on, and I haven't even scratched the surface of all the different capabilities that are available to us under these actions. We have web actions here where I can download files off the web. I can launch web pages in various browsers. You can see I can launch in Chrome, Edge, Firefox, Internet Explorer. So there's capability built in here for various types of browsers to be able to launch web pages. I can utilize an Excel file, right? If I want to read data out of an Excel file or I want to add data to an Excel file, I can do that in here. Connecting to different kinds of databases, email servers. I can work with XML. I can connect to my Active Directory. AWS resources I can connect to and do work there. Azure resources, all kinds of different things in here. I haven't even scratched the surface of this stuff yet. So one of the things that I'm going to do, and let me get this out of the way. I'm going to tell this RPA that I want to run an application that lives on my desktop. So I'm going to drag that action over to my canvas, and it wants to know the path to the application that I want to run. So I'm going to give it the path to that invoices application that we looked at a minute ago. So I'm going to paste this in here because I already had that ready to go. And I don't need to fill in this case, I don't need to fill in any kind of command line arguments. So I'm going to save that. So what that step is going to do is actually launch the application for me. And now I want to record the steps in that application that I have to take manually, because that's, you know, our entire goal here. So in this case, I'm going to use the desktop recorder to record those steps. You'll notice on the toolbar up here that I have a desktop recorder. I also have a web recorder. So the web recorder in the background is using some technology from Selenium, but it helps us to do the same thing that I'm going to show you with a desktop application in a web page. So if I start up the desktop recorder, I'm going to get rid of this. And that, of course, likes to come up on my main screen. So I'll drag that over here. And I'll bring up my invoicing application so we can see that. Excuse me. And so it is important to capture all of the steps that a user would go through to get through a particular process. So when I launch this application for the first time, it's important that we know what that opening state is. So I'll start recording. And once this fires up, one of the things that you'll see is sort of a red box around the my mouse pointer. And I'm hoping you guys can see that. And so the red box is kind of telling me when you click here, this is the user interface element that I'm going to record. So what I want to go through in terms of a process is I want the user to go into invoices and create a new invoice. So I want my new invoice button. And then I'm going to start to fill in some data here in my new invoice. And I'm going to jump between fields here. And I'll fill in an amount, $500. And I want to record that as invoiced. Come back here, invoiced. And then I want to save that. So I can save my invoice. And those are the steps that I want to record. Okay, and you can see over in the recording, the desktop recorder, it captured all of that different UI stuff that I just did. So I'm going to finish my recording here. And you can see that now in Power Automate Desktop, it captured the details for all of those steps that I took, right? So it captured, in this case, if we take a look at the account field, it captured the user interface element, the field that I clicked in, and then it also captured my keystrokes. Now, I'll show you an example of how we actually use variables to fill in these fields. But so it captured all of my keystrokes. And now one of the things we can do here is I'll save this. And what it's doing in the background is it's saving this Power Automate flow, this desktop flow in my environment. So if I refresh this, we should see the new desktop flow sitting here. So this stuff still lives in Power Platform with all the rest of your capabilities. Here's that new flow. These things can be solution aware. So I'll show you an example of that in a couple of minutes, but I can add these desktop flows to my solutions, which become part of that deployable package as we move from dev to test to prod. And then let's just run this and just test out this piece. So I'm going to close this and we'll just test out this piece. I'm going to run this here. And what you'll see in a second is it's going to launch that application, the invoicing application. Hopefully you guys can see my hands. I'm not doing anything. And there's nobody else in the room here either. So you can see that it's taking all of those steps that I recorded and it's playing all that back, which is really cool, right? So this application doesn't have to just live on my laptop, which is what we would call attended mode. In other words, when there's a user already logged into the machine, the application is going to run under the security context of that user, right? So that's what we refer to as attended mode. But these desktop flows can also run in unattended mode. And to be honest with you, large customers that I've been working with on this technology, That's typically the scenario that they have. They have applications deployed sometimes on VMs in the cloud. Sometimes they're web applications that they deploy as Azure Web Apps, so they're serverless. But those machines, if you will, that are running the application, you don't typically have an individual user logged in. You don't have the security context of a logged in user, and that's what we refer to as unattended mode. And these desktop flows still work in that type of scenario, unattended mode. So I can take this this desktop flow that I created, that I recorded here, and one of the things we can do is, you'll see on the right-hand side here, we can create variables. I'll show you an example of one that has some variables created here. So this is essentially the same example, but I've created some variables like the account variable over here. If we look at what that looks like, it's really just essentially giving your variable a name and specifying whether it's an input or output variable, because we can handle both directions. We can define what an internal name for this variable is, and we can also define an external name. So when we look at this variable from the Power Automate flow perspective, the cloud flow side, this is the name of the variable that we're going to see that we want to fill in. So I have a few input variables. I have an output variable as well, which allows me to capture the invoice ID from that invoice that we just created, because I want to do some stuff with that. So essentially, this is the same example, but I've sort of wired up those UI controls to utilize the variables that are passed in, instead of having to have that standard text that I typed, right? Because that's of only limited use when we do it that way. So let's take this over to a real world example. And this is kind of a training mechanism that I go through with customers to talk about, to get them hands-on with RPA. So as I mentioned earlier, you can, the RPA flows are solution aware. So we'll see that in my solution, I have some desktop flows, and I have some cloud flows. I have an AI model. I have an AI builder model, and we're going to see how that's incorporated into this whole process. So all of these things that we're talking about today, these desktop flows, can be incorporated into your solutions for deployment purposes. And so as an example, if I want to look at a way to, and I do this for testing all the time, if you guys don't use the manual trigger, the button flow for testing purposes, I highly recommend that, because it gives you an easy way to just trigger the flow and then kind of work through your business logic in the rest of the flow, and you can trigger it any way you want. And so this is a case where I'm triggering that desktop flow that we just looked at, and I'm telling it that it's running in attended mode, and I'm filling in some specific values within this flow. These are values that I want to pass into it. And again, what it's going to do is run that desktop flow and pass in these values as those variables. Now, the place where this shows up is when we look at the connectors, we'll see that we have a desktop flows connector now, and I can run flows from Power Automate Desktop. I can also run recorded flows from the Selenium IDE or the Windows Recorder. And these are the two, these were our two initial RPA recording tools before we brought out Power Automate Desktop. So we still have a little bit of that legacy capability from our RPA capabilities that we're still supporting. But that's where that action came from, to run a flow built with Power Automate Desktop. So if we think about what more of a real world scenario would look like, I can do something where an invoice, for example, hits my inbox. So my invoice might look something like this, where You know, I get invoices that get emailed in, and we have some vendor information and an invoice total and the date that the invoice is due, so on and so forth. So what I was able to do was take a bunch of these invoices and train an AI builder model to pull off those pieces of data that I want. So now when an email hits my inbox, and what I did was I told it anything that comes in with a subject of new invoice, I want to pull off the attachment, and I'm going to pass the attachment into my AI builder model. And if you guys want to go into AI builder, if you have any questions around that, we can touch on that as well. But what I can do is pass that attachment into my AI builder model, which is essentially using the form recognition capabilities in the background. It'll take that attachment and pull off pieces of data that I want. And here's where I'm calling out to my my desktop flow and passing in those values as the variables that we talked about. Okay, now along the way, what I'm also doing here is I'm saying, okay, I got this email attachment, this invoice attachment in my email. I pass it into pass it into AI Builder and pull out some pieces of data. Then I also want to send a message out through Teams. In this case, we're sending it through the Flowbot, and I can use those values in my message that goes through Flowbot so that this shows up in Teams. And then depending on whether or not it's been approved, because I'm asking the user, do you approve of this invoice? So they're going to have options to select yes, no, process manually, right? I can configure all of that in the Flowbot in Teams and then say, well, if it was approved, then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to actually run my my desktop flow, pass in those values that I want and let it do its thing. And then I'm just going to send an email back to the user, right? So this is a little bit more of a real world scenario where we're incorporating our digital flows that we've talked about, that we've been building in the past, and extending what we already have in Office 365, but then still being able to incorporate those legacy systems to drive data and remove some of that manual processing that users have to take. The desktop flow, I'll show you what the desktop flow itself looks like that we're going to run here, because you also have the capability in Power Automate Desktop to have what we call subflows. Okay, so my full example here takes not only those steps that we recorded previously to drive invoice data to that legacy application, but then I'm also going to run a subflow that calls out to, that launches a currency exchange web page and pass in the amount from the invoice and get an exchange amount from that web page. And we're going to take all of that information and I'm going to write it out to an Excel file, right? So I'm going to launch an Excel file. I'm going to find the first free row in that file, and then I'm going to store all of those pieces of data in a row in an Excel file, right? So again, the ability to incorporate all of these different pieces of systems, applications, data sources, what have you, into your RPA flows. So we'll see an example of how this works. What I'm actually going to run is this version of the desktop flow. I'm sorry, this version of the cloud flow, where I'm sending an adaptive card over to Teams. So instead of using the flow bot, I'm going to send an adaptive card, but I'm still passing in those values that we pulled from AI Builder off of the invoice image. So I'm going to send myself an email here so that it triggers this process. And theoretically, we'll see that email pop up over here. And here's my new invoice that just popped up. So I have my attachment on there, which is nice. And then what that should do is trigger this Cloudflow. So I'm going to come back out to the main description here, and I can see that it triggered my flow. Now, again, I'm not sure how much experience you guys have with Cloudflows, but this is a great testing and tracking capability built into Power Automate Flow, where I can see the steps that I've run. So I can see that it picked up my email and it came into my apply each, because I may have multiple attachments on that email. And what it did was send the message into Teams. So if I come over to Teams, apparently I've been talking too long, so that tab went to sleep. These new sleeping tab things that we did in Edge seems kind of cool, but I'm not sure if I like it. So here's my adaptive card that I sent to Teams. So now as a user, I can say, oh, okay, I got a message in Teams. I can take a look at the information that came from the invoice attachment, and I can decide whether I want to approve or reject. I'm going to approve this because if we reject it, that wouldn't be any fun. And I'll confirm that. And that's going to then continue the process of that flow. So it's going to take that information. It'll take a second here, but we're going to see it launch the invoice application and go through all those manual steps like we saw before. And then theoretically, it's going to launch a web page and do the exchange, the currency exchange, and then it should launch an Excel file and store that information in Excel. So come on.
While we wait for this, Jamie, can you run the Power Automate desktop from inside the Azure Cloud Workspace, like a VM?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, awesome. when we do this hands-on workshop with customers, I typically set up VMs for them out of Azure Labs, because in a lot of cases you're dealing with, security issues. Oh, the currency conversion moved over to my other screen, so you're not seeing it. Sorry. I'll pull it back over in a minute. That wasn't convenient. So yeah, I typically set up VMs for these things so that we don't run into security issues with users not being able to install the local pieces like Power Automate Desktop. And when you're running on any machine, whether it's your local machine or it's a server in your enterprise or it's a VM, you're still going to use the on-prem data gateway to facilitate the communication between Power Platform and your desktop applications wherever they're installed. And so that on-prem data gateway piece and the Power Automate Desktop application, those are local installs. So I typically run that stuff on a VM with customers, so they have access to all the tools that they need.
Awesome. Cool.
Here's my Excel spreadsheet, and here's the information that we just pulled in. And if I go back to look at our invoice, just to prove, okay, this was the invoice that was just added with the data that came from that email attachment, right? And the ID for that invoice, 1102, that's what we put over here in the Excel spreadsheet. And here's where it launched this was the one piece that I didn't set up ahead of time and make sure it would pop on this screen. Here's where it launched the currency conversion, and it dropped in our value and got a converted value and all that good stuff. Okay, so I think it's a pretty cool capability within Power Automate to start really looking at all of those automation capabilities across the entire enterprise in a tool set that a lot more people can use, right? In a lot of organizations, we're used to having to go to IT to build these things or write custom code for these things, or there's already something built and we need to make changes to it. So IT is going to take 6 months to go through the analysis and the impact and figure out what's going to happen if they make changes and what might break. In this case, we can start to spread that work out over multiple people in the organization, because now I don't necessarily have to change what's already there. I can utilize what we already have. And we can do that across multiple people. So thoughts, questions around this RPA capability?
I'll just give one thought. That's really cool.
It's fun stuff. And like I said, with the desktop, I haven't scratched the surface of all the stuff that's in here with all the different actions that you have available to you. I mean, the ability to automate, man, almost anything is pretty cool.
So I see, like.
So that's all I have. If anybody wants to jump in with questions, feel free. Otherwise, Heidi, it's all yours.
Are you, so I see be able to call like JavaScript code. Are you able to call C# code directly, or are you, must you, okay, so I didn't know if you just have to, like, you know, robotically access, like, you know, PowerShell script to run the process.
Well, you can, but I mean, but let's think about those different types of code, right? JavaScript, I can run with a JavaScript engine, right? Because it's scripting. C# isn't really scripting, right? That would get compiled, but that doesn't mean I can't execute that code once it's been compiled, right? So.
Anyone else have questions for Jamie? I know today's sessions might be a little overwhelming for our new to Dynamics people. We've gone really deep into some of the cool, more technical, more advanced topics that are, I'd say, beyond your initial go live when you're ready to kind of take it to the next level. So thanks for hanging in there. Jeff, Donald, and Ruth, I think those are our 3 newbies. Sorry if there's others. Awesome presentation, Jamie. That was really cool. So
I just had a quick
go ahead.
question for Jamie. I just signed into, the Power Apps and clicked on the desktop flows. Is asking, is there a separate subscription to the desk flows?
Yeah, RPA is an add-on for your subscription.
Okay.
But you can get a trial, right?
Yeah, it says you can start a trial.
Someone wants to trust up. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Any other questions? Awesome presentations today from both of you. Thank you so much. We've gotten on this little cadence of where we're doing the 3rd Friday of every quarter. So that brings us to May 21st for our next one. So we'll tentatively have that date saved. If anyone has any big conflicts, let me know. We can change it. Sadly, I think we'll still be virtual on May 21st. Maybe in our Q3 meeting, we'll be in person. I don't know. Like I said before, Harry has volunteered to give us a member showcase. I think member showcases are always really neat. I think it's great to see how people are actually using the technology. And gosh, with so many instances running and so many apps of Dynamics, that's really neat. Plus, all of us are probably consuming data from the County of Montgomery and how they're displaying it, right? We see all kinds of stuff from COVID fun and I'm sure others. So I'm really looking forward to that. I want to see what you guys want to learn about too. So our speakers today were because you guys were interested in hearing this stuff. So what do you want to learn about next quarter? What can we help with? What presentations are you interested in? You can come off mute, put in chat, email me later.
I would be happy to show off the connectorreview.com thing we built.
Okay,
But
so that
if there's
is
interest.
Power Automate focus. So if anyone wants to learn more about Power Automate connectors, thank you, Nick. Peter, you got something?
Sure. I was also going to say, if anyone would like to see, I'd be be happy to demonstrate the Power App that we rolled out. It's actually sitting on top of a SharePoint document library, and it's filtering through those, doing multi-select, and sending shareable links to external contacts and building an email and such. So if that would be of interest to anybody, I'd be happy to demonstrate that.
Yeah, I'd love to see that, Peter. That sounds interesting.
Cool.
Awesome. Any other wish list items? Any big changes coming up? It sounds like we've got some big on-premise to online upgrades. That's exciting. That's fun. If your idea of fun is going from an old on-premise legacy system to online, but fun. There's also, I saw yesterday, there's a new on-premise version being launched. So if you need to stick with on-premise for whatever reason, there's a new update coming out. It's not available yet, but I can find that link. I saw it on LinkedIn yesterday, and it's going to have some of the unified interface stuff and some of the other things we're used to online that maybe you've been seeing if you're on-premise in demos and you're really frustrated, like, man, that's cool, but I can't get it. You can if you upgrade to the latest, greatest version coming soon. So that was a cool thing that I saw. All right. Cool. Well, we have 3 minutes left. So I'm just going to plug one of the things here that's on kind of the chapter slide deck. So Dynamics 365 user group, as I'm sure some of you have seen, are kind of transitioning to a new style, look, and feel. But we still have some great stuff. There's study groups. I was helping to lead an MB600 study group, which actually had, I think, 12 or 13 meetings. So that was really fun to do. If you're looking to take any Microsoft certification exams, all the recordings for previous study groups are up there. We talked, those of us who were leading, I think we're going to launch a PL 100 and PL 200 study group soon. So you can look for that coming soon. And if you're interested in MB 600, you have until June to take it before that turns into a PL 600. There's a lot of panel discussions still. So there are 30-minute topics where there's a panel of experts in whatever that group is. So you can look for them. And Ask the Experts is just an open Q&A style. So you can look for all those at crmug.com or their new DAC website, which is in transition mode. Any other questions? We have a couple minutes. Is that anyone having any issues or problems in their Dynamics 365 systems? You want to open it up to this group of experts and see if anyone has any ideas on how to help? Everyone's systems are awesome. You got 100% user adoption. All your systems are integrated.
I have another thing that we might be able to present on. It's really early, but I have a way to get advanced debugging info. So you can see all the details about errors that you can't normally see from the unified interface. So I can give a short presentation on that. It would be highly technical though.
No, I haven't used Teams breakout rooms yet, but that would be kind of a cool use for a breakout room, right? You could have your highly technical session over here, and then your more like system admin focused session over here. That would be interesting. Okay. Are you guys okay with the amount of time we've been meeting? I know every chapter, I've been trying to attend other chapter meetings, and some people still have like a full day, half day thing. We're doing more like about 2 hours, an hour and a half. Is the time good for everyone? Is there anything else you want to cover? Yeses and thumbs up. Bye, Harry.
I think the time is good because I think a lot of us have a hard time getting away for so long from everything because, you know, we're IT people. If we're away for an hour, everything will burn down. So I think having it this way makes it a lot easier for all of us to be able to kind of like step away and not check emails for like 2 hours or so versus having it be a full day or a half a day type of scenario.
Awesome. I thought that too. So glad to hear that. Plus there's always, you know, like Zoom and Teams fatigue.
Yes, very much so these days.
Not that we have that, right? We're good. We're just going to eat our pizza and tacos and rolling our money and all our spare time. Thanks for entertaining me with that question too. That was kind of fun. Oh, we have people waiting in the lobby to pop in. I wonder where they're
All
coming
right.
from. Welcome to the
Heidi,
last minute of the meeting.
Heidi, I love the way you did the intros this time. That was a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Backgrounds and everybody getting on video. That was cool.
Yeah, I really missed seeing all of you. It's nice to see everyone, meet our new folks. Welcome. We hope you join us again in May.
I wanted to thank Katie and Jamie for the presentations. They were really good.
Oh, and we did record this meeting. So if you popped in late, or those of you who just joined our meeting now, I'm going to post that. I have a YouTube channel. It's under CRM Heidi. So I will post it up there and you can watch the exciting replay. I'll put that on LinkedIn and Twitter and all that good stuff too. Awesome. Thanks everybody for joining us. Hope you have a wonderful snowy Friday. Enjoy another snowy afternoon and another snow-filled weekend.
Bye, everyone.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, presenters. Take care, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.